That's a load of science.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of That's a Lot of Science. Today, we're going to talk about a very interesting and very important topic about the discovery and the development of novel drugs, which is clinical trials. And we are going to do so with our guest today, which is Stefano Lagravinese, a CEO of ClinOpsHub, which I thank to be here and accepting our invite to be here with us.
Thank you, Alessio, for the invite.
Hi, Stefano. So, we always start like this. So I always ask my guests how they arrive where they are, what is their career background, what is their passion. So, what about you, Stefano?
So, first of all, thank you again for your invitation. My name is Stefano Lagravinese, and I work in clinical research since 2004. When I graduated in biotechnology at the University of Modena. When I started this career, I didn't know this field because nobody told me about clinical research during my studies. And when I discovered this field, I literally was incredible. Surprised about how interesting is this world. So I started working for, after a PhD, I started working for different companies, these different international CROs working on clinical trials. And during this experience, I started also blogging with a website that is still online. It's called crasecrets.com. Despite the name, it is in Italian, and it is still the first point of contact for who wants to start a career in this field. After 10 years working for CROs, I started my own companies together with a training course that is called Mission CRA. So the aim of this course is to teach clinical research and to explain how to start a career in clinical research. So basically, it's 10 years that I founded ClinOpsHub, and now ClinOpsHub is working on basically on managing project of clinical research and training courses and quality in clinical research. So GCP audits, basically.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Thanks. So, yeah, a lot of things going on. And we are talking about clinical trials here. What are they? Why are they so important in discovery and development of novel drugs?
Yes, clinical trials are let's say, the last step of the development of a new drug. It's they are the confirmation of all the hypotheses that who discovers drugs want to understand. So the clinical trials are basically the testing of these new drugs in humans. After having passed the different steps in vitro and then in vivo on animals, the clinical trials are done in humans, of course, and mainly in hospitals and especially abroad Italy in private clinics. So this is an important, the last important step for the confirmation and for ensure that the drug is quite safe, because of course we never can say that a drug is safe. Every drug has side effects, of course, and at the end, the aim is to understand if the drug is safe and quite safe, let's say, and of course does a benefit, makes a benefit to the patient who is taking it.
Yeah.
So, and this is what at least this they explain during the university pathway. This is amazing because at least in Italy, also the medical doctor pathway, also in this course of medicine, nobody explains, at least in most of the university I know, there is no module on clinical research, and this is quite difficult to understand because, of course, physicians are the first actors involved in this process.
Yeah, very exactly. I mean, very not clear why, but yeah, I mean, makes sense then when they will then run clinical trials, that they need to have an idea of what is on stake, what's going on. And you mentioned something that is quite clear, very interesting to me as well, like that the fact that it's not only about the efficacy of the drug. So of course we expect the drug to do something, but also the safety of the drug. No, this is where we really test that even before its efficacy, we ensure that there is no harm in using the drug on humans, which is, I would say, even more important. No, and also, like in the different phases of clinical trial, safety is usually tested first before the efficacy. You know, I mean, before we go for approval, we have to ensure everything, not only that your drug is work. And usually, how long is this process? How many steps, how many phases, and how many years you need to employ to get a drug from in clinical trials for approval?
Safety, of course, is the first goal, but also efficacy, and especially for the so-called phase 1 studies, also the dose. So mainly the dose, it's the first, to understand the best dose, not toxic dose. It's the first aim of these first phase studies. Generally, these phase 1 studies are called first in human because, of course, in most of cases, this is the drug is tested for the first time in human. And so in this phase 1 trials, the aim is to understand if, first of all, it is if the drug is safe, and then to understand also the dosage of the best dosage of the drug. In this phase 1, generally, phase 1 trials generally can be, or but is not a rule, that the person involved is a safe volunteer. So someone who is is not a patient, so a healthy volunteer. Then, of course, if everything is going good, and the history of clinical research told us that, of course, incidents can happen. For example, there are a couple of events that were very important, very known in the world of clinical trials. One happened in the UK, another one in France, and so this is very important, and this is why, for example, in Italy, we have a special law that explain that take into serious consideration the importance of quality in phase 1 studies. because of course they are the most dangerous studies, and it's important that all sites working on phase 1 trials are in line, in compliance with some basic requirements that the Italian law specify in a book. No, sorry, in it's called the Determina. It's very, very important.
And you see a difference between countries regarding this?
This was made, this Determina IFA, although it is as far as I know, and it happened that I have been invited to some international congresses to speak about this. This is the only case can be in the world that there is some a law that explains this. These requirements are, however, based on UK guidelines of the MHRA, that is the competent authority of the UK. Basically, these requirements are based on the UK requirements. Although in Italy it's a law, so this means that all the Italian phase 1 units must comply with this law. And at the end, this is what I do in my job, because I support at the moment 25 phase 1 units in Italy to achieve this important quality requirement.
Okay, so to make sure that they have the right standard to always to perform the phase 1. Yeah. And then, I mean, once you conduct a clinical trial, let's say in phase 1, you are, let's say everything goes well, and then it's there when you can start testing on patients. Then,
yes, although, for example, it's now quite common that phase 1 trials are done on patients direct. So the phase 1 are done in some cases directly on patients, and this is also important because especially for those patients that have serious disease, so this can be an important hope for them. Then once the phase 1 trial, has been completed, so the second, the process continues with phase 2 and phase 3 trials. Phase 2 is generally done on from 100 to 200 people, patients. In this case, from phase 2, always they are patients, so people who already have that disease. And then phase 3 are, let's say, the last step, and this can be done also on thousands of people, of patients. And in my career, I worked with a so-called mega trial that was made. It was a phase 3B study. And in fact, after the study, the drug was approved, and it is still in commerce. And it was done on 26,000 patients. It was a huge trial. We were 1,000 sites and 100 CRAs working in all the world on this trial.
I can imagine. But I mean, the number of people participating varies based on criteria like what? I mean, why this was specifically so big?
Of course, this all with the the progression of the phase. The inclusion criteria are a little bit more similar to the real world, because at the beginning you select, for example, for phase 2, they are very strict, these criteria because we want to study and understand better what a selected.
Yeah. You don't want to mix different variables. You want
so
to
they are very pure. Let's say the patients are very selected. Then with phase 3, of course, there are some inclusion and exclusion criteria, but they are a little bit more large in order to be a little bit more similar to the real world. In fact, of course, but this is considered in the process of drugs. Once the after phase 3, the drug is ready to be in the market. It happens that the competent authority of each country can remove them from the market because the drug is used worldwide, without these strict inclusion and exclusion criteria. And so, of course, other adverse reaction appears also because it's when the drug arrives in the real world, of course, it's not so controlled the process as in a clinical trial, and so there are different reactions. So generally, for 100 phase 1 trials, only 4 generally arrive to the market, and of these 4, just 1 really remains in the market. The other 3 are removed. So 1 on 100 really.
And remove, you mean that when they start to be given to the general population, some other adverse events comes out, and then they, even if they tested already in 3 phases, and then they. I mean that's explain clearly how challenging it is, not only to bring a drug to the market, but also to keep it there.
Challenge and expensive, of course, because this is a huge project that requires millions, if not billions. During my training activities, I generally say that, of course, this is at the end, yes, for pharma companies, there is a return of investment, of course, not for all drugs, because some of them are not working, so it's a failure for them. But when the drug is really working, there are some revenue of billions per year. I was just say for lots of years, the drug the most sold drug was not the most sold, the drug who let's say the sell for this drug who was an incredible amount, was an incredible amount. It's something like 15 billions per year. So of course it's lots of money. And now there is another one I have in front of me because I'm publishing on CRA Secrets the top 5, and it is at the moment it is Keytruda. So it's the so-called pembrolizumab from Merck, and it does 25 billions it did 25 billions on 2023, and then followed by the king for lots of years, that is Humira, another antibody, human antibody, that does 14 billions in did the 14 billion in 2023. So of course, yes, there are lots of investment, but at the same time, lots of earning from that.
I mean, the pharmaceutical companies are taking risk, but they are like very precisely calculated risk based on exactly the revenues and the return on investment that they are going to do on that specific drug. Also, because as you say, only 1 out of 100 can stay on the market, only 4% approval from the 3 phases. It is important that, also to keep the research going, because if the investment were made, but then there's no return, then of course it won't be any progress into that. How important it is to have clinical trials also to foster the research on a certain topic, on a certain disease, not only for the sake of approving a drug.
Yes, and if I can add this, of course, this is a very challenging field, and yes, then you can arrive because it is not the rule that you have this revenue from one single drug. But of course, the risk of failure is very, very, very high. In 2012, I was working on a drug. It was in the cardiology field, and this trial was not. It was a phase 3 trial, so ready to be sell the drug.
Mm-hmm.
And after the so-called meeting of the DSMB, it's called Data Safety Monitoring Board. It is a board of experts that every 6 months, 1 year meet and say if the drug is working or not, if it's safe, and they realized that the drug has no efficacy, let's say, on these patients. So the market value of this company that was quoted in the Nasdaq, so the technology index of the US, lost 74% of the value in one night, basically, because this was the project on which they were counting. So the market was really, and this is listed as one of the worst epic fail of in the field of pharmaceutical field. Yes, in the pharma field. Yes.
I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine. When you invest so much of your company into a single project and a single clinical trial, if that fails, that could be catastrophic for everyone. And I can imagine. And
and we go to the next number. This is funny, let's say, now after 3 years, but of course it's not so funny. Without talking about pharma companies that fail and close in 3 days, as one time it happened to me. A pharma company closed in 3 days and failed, and with a debt of something like 15 or 16 millions, with all the people involved in this process.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Yeah, exactly. And for the people, it can be, a big surprise. Let's put it this way. And let's talk about the people now. Let's talk about who is involved in the clinical trials. About, we have talked already about a lot. Like you mentioned already, doctors, like medical doctors. You talk about like experts that are going to form boards and expert in market access as well, because we were talking about the price and the value, the market value. So, Can you tell us more? Like,
Yes,
who are the key players?
But before moving forward, a word from our sponsor, IDM Insight. IDM Insight is an interactive intelligence platform that brings the latest pharmaceutical AI innovation to early drug discovery and clinical teams, pairing the latest technological advancements from AWS Cloud and cutting-edge science disciplines. Insight is able to save drug development and clinical teams time and money by simplifying your interactions with intelligence data and AI solution into one centralized platform. Check out the platform for yourself at idm-insight.com. That's idm-insight.com.
With regards to clinical trials, I mean, in the world of clinical research, the main actors involved are, of course, the sponsor, who is generally the pharmaceutical company, who pays and generally also writes the protocol that must be followed in order to have, let's say, standard results from all sides. And then this pharma company can be supported by the so-called CRO, so the contract research organization, that are companies like ClinOpsHub that support pharma companies to manage and organize clinical trials. Of course, it depends. There are lots of CROs. Only in Italy, we have 100 CROs from the international and the huge CRO that after COVID and during and after COVID became bigger and bigger. So there are some companies that have also 40,000 people in the world. And then, of course, these CROs can offer different services, from the management of the whole clinical trials, so the management of quality, laboratory, or management of the database where the dates of patients must be entered and collected. So pharma, CROs, and of course where the place where the trial is conducted, that are the clinical sites. Can be a private clinic or a hospital, a public hospital, a private hospital, and in these places, patients are, we say, enrolled, and so we have the main role is called the principal investigator, and here we have some physician who, based on the protocol and on the inclusion and the exclusion criteria, enrolls the right patient for that trial.
Okay.
And so, of course, the other two main actors are ethical committees, or if you are in the US, IRB. IRB, it's Institutional Review Board. It's something similar to the ethical committee, and they evaluate the study, and they understand if this is safe and the rights of subjects are they are safe. So I mean, ethical. Yes, if the study is ethic, and if the study can go and can start. And then, of course, there is the other public actor, that is the local national competent authority, that, of course, has to authorize the trial and has the right also to inspect all these actors involved. So from the CRO, the pharma company, the hospital, the pharmacy of the hospital, all facilities of the hospital. So this, in few words, the main involved. Of course, inside of this actor, there are lots of roles with different responsibilities. The beautiful thing is that the goal is the same. So to, first of all, find a cure for the patient, and then, of course, let's say, of course, for the pharma company also to sell and earn money.
To reach
We
the
cannot
market.
say this. Yes, to reach the market. Yes.
But no, you explain it very nicely, very clearly. So yeah, I mean, there are many people and many. I mean, yeah, of course, the goal is the same, but there are many interests and many different skill sets, I would say, involved. Yeah, you mentioned already physician, and of course, like people from pharmaceutical, and this is what you also train in your courses, no, in your mission CRA, no, where you train people that want to become a research associate in clinical trials, and how important is the the teaching, let's say. I mean, how does it work? Do you, of course, like given that some basics, of course, of the clinical trial would be needed, but also like how do you teach them to liaise with so many different figures, so many different actors?
Yes, the training is important, but of course everybody knows the importance of training, and also it's required. I did not mention that I wrote this book that is a sum of all Italian laws about clinical research. And it contains all the rules that who works in Italy has to know and apply. And this is basically this is requested by the law that everybody who is involved in the clinical research must be trained in clinical research. So it's not a plus, the training. Plus another very unique, let's say, rule in the world, as far as I know, is in Italy, because we have a law that says that regulates the CRO's activity, and for example, it requires some strict requirements for starting a career as a CRA or as a GCP auditor. So in order to start, you have to be compliant with the law, and at least to follow a course of 40 or 60 hours based on the role of a CRA or auditor. And so I started Mission CRA with to be compliant with this law, but at the end I understood that there was a huge need of understanding the basic requirements of how clinical research works. In fact, this is a starting course for who wants to understand better the world of clinical research, but also, and it is attended also by people who has already experience, but their experience was based on, let's say, training on the job that, of course, is always useful. But if in this, as often happens, this training on the job is not based on the rules or the theory, but also only practice. So lots of people already with experience in clinical research who attended my courses, they realized that lots of things were not taught to them during the, let's say, on training on the job.
So usually are people that are already, kind of in the world of clinical trial, that in order to obtain the certification, let's say by law, they get these, they need to get these hours of lessons and training. Okay. But do you feel that this? Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
No, just to specify, this is a unique law in the world, as far as I know. And of course, for some companies can be seen this because this law regulates how CRO must work. And from another point of view, this is a very important requirement that then lead to a high quality work. So I can sure, and I have been invited also to speak about this in Congress one time. This, as a consequence, clinical research in Italy has a very high quality respects to the others that, of course, they are with quality too, but we have lots of rules that we have to follow in Italy. And for example, all people by law working on clinical research must to complete a training of 30 hours every year. So this is very important, and I don't believe that all international CROs in the world does this. So this.
No, and this is what I wanted to ask you, like exactly what you just said. So the fact that we have so many laws and so very specific law, and you already mentioned the one for like the requirements for phase 1 clinical trials. You mentioned now the one for becoming a CRA in Italy. It makes actually, an impact on the quality of the clinical trial. So then also the level of evidence that you generate from the clinical trials are much better and much higher. So
Totally
the
agree.
importance also of doing that.
Yes, but this happened after 10 years because the rule is dated 2011. So it was not seen very good from the CRO, of course, this law, because in order to be compliant, there is lots of work, but as a consequence, after 10, 15 years, we can say that quality in Italy is very high.
Yeah, well, of course, you don't, I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day, I mean, everything takes its time to show the results, but it's good that we eventually get there, and hopefully for once we can be as an example for the other European countries, or like countries that want to apply this sort of law and level of quality. And do you feel like this also impact the success of a clinical trial in terms of, or this is more like related to the drug itself, the treatment itself?
Yes, of course, this impact also on the development of a new drug. But at the end, the real consequence is that the whole staff of the CRO is more competent, and mainly as we work on this field and we support lots of CROs, other CROs also in this in managing their quality. There is a higher awareness about the importance of quality that is, and it is very important.
I can imagine. The importance of having quality by design in clinical trials as well, and to follow certain guidelines. To make sure that everything is successful. Because at the end of the day, as you said before, this field, the clinical trial field, is already a very risky field and with many failures. So we need to take any chances to increase the possibility to success, the possibility to lead forward. And in that sense, also the new approaches to clinical trials. No, what's going on now? We see a lot of evolving of the way the clinical trials are conducting and technologies that are applied to clinical trials. And because we already mentioned this, no, the process is not very efficient and effective. So we need to improve that in terms to reach the market with more drugs and to treat more diseases that are getting also like more complex. So, I mean, can you share with us some of this new technology or these new approaches that you might have come across in your career on like applied on clinical trials today?
Yes. First, before starting this, I want to explain that first of all, our Bible is the so-called GCP, Good Clinical Practice, that are the international standards that were created in 1996 from the so-called ICH. ICH stands for International Conference on Harmonization, and basically Europe, Japan, and the US met and say, okay, we have to regulate all the process of pharma development. So they developed different standards. One of these is that regulates the clinical trials are the so-called ICH E6, better known as GCP. So this GCP, of course, with the evolution of the technology, were amended. So they brought in 1996, and after more or less 20 years, they were reviewed with the so-called R2, so the revision number 2. They were published in 2017. So just something like 20 years. And in this new release, there was already some new words based on the technology, because of course the first standard were written when the most known technology was the fax, for example, or the floppy disk. Now we have lots of different things. So there was a second review, and now after only 5 years from the R2, it's going to be published in the next upcoming few weeks, the R3, so the review number 3, and this was a total revolution of the standards, based on also on the importance of technology that is changing life also in this field. For example, 20 years ago, everything was paper-based. Now everything is in the cloud, so this must be regulated. The importance of privacy and data breach. So the importance of keep everything safe, because of course we are talking about patients' rights, and one of the key the key value of the clinical research is the confidentiality of data of patients. So of course technology changed the approach to manage these clinical trials, and of course there is a revolution of everything. First of all, for example, it's the so-called decentralized clinical trial. Until 5, 6, 7 years, the only place where the clinical trial was managed was the hospital. Now there are some trials that where patients do not go to hospital, but they are monitored from other entities, so remotely from the investigator. They can sign the so-called ICF, informed consent form, remotely with the app, and so they start a trial from their house, and there is someone, can be a nurse, that goes to their house and visit them, perform ECG, or better, ECG is already done with something you can put in your pocket, and automatically. I did already one ECG that you can just take it a little box in your hands, and in a few seconds you have it's not a 12 derivatives ECG, but something less, a little bit less.
In few amazing. I mean,
yes. So, for example, there is someone who can go to the house of patient and take a blood sample, or do a visit to the subject. So this is, of course, an important evolution, and of course we are not also talking about the so-called wearable. So all these devices that you can wear, and they keep constantly track about you.
And also, like, the importance of this for including patients, because of course some of them might not be able to go to hospital, or they will be geographically remote, so they will not participate to this clinical trial, but thanks to this they can have access to innovation in the medicine, innovation in the field, also by, without the burden, without the the stress to go to a hospital and be moved and stuff like this. So the importance, I mean, this is very, very, clear. Also, like, to reduce the burden on the patient, and make more inclusive clinical trials from a social perspective as well.
Yes, and for example, just about talking about the recruitment of patients, this is a very weak point of clinical research. You have to consider that the 30% of clinical trials fails because there is a lack of patients to be involved in the trial. So this is very important, and can be that decentralized clinical trials can also reduce this risk, because of course you don't need to go on the site, and can be, let's consider huge countries. You can have just one site in the country, and then everything is done remotely. So you can you can reach more people. Sure.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. And also, like, I mean, you can reach people that otherwise would not be involved, and solve a lot of biases that we had already from experience from different clinical trials. But now, I mean, we're also going beyond that. No, now we don't even need patient anymore. Now we are just digitalizing them.
Yes, and this is another revolution in this field. We are talking about the so-called in silico trials. I have a friend of mine who started a startup. I will not nominate it, just for not doing advertisement. But he started created a company working on in silico trials. So basically, the aim of this type of approach is to simulate the trials before doing it, based on the reviews that than the articles present on the in the market, and doing some with, of course, the involvement of high performing computers. They can simulate clinical trials before doing them, so you can understand if based on the on what we know at the moment, that type of drug can work, but not only drug, also medical device or whatever you want to test. And this approach, of course, can reduce lots of investment in clinical trials. So this is a revolution in this field. And of course, another revolution is about digital therapeutics. So, of course, for example, an application of your mobile phone can be considered as a treatment that, for example, can reduce the compliance, can increase the compliance of taking a drug. And so, of course, this can help the patient to be healthy. And in this case, so there is another word that is the digital therapeutics word, where you can the treatment is not the drug, but something technological that can better or that can improve the life of patient.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the technology really, I mean, evolved really rapidly, and I think that, I mean, here we really see how the process has been, I mean, impacted by it, because when we're talking about the health of the patient, we were, thinking of a way of making it better, making it more accessible for everyone, and of course, the technology comes in help. And I mean, for the in silico also, like, as you said, a lot of, investment saved by the company, that if they know that the clinical trial might be at risk, they will not probably start, or they will already know what to change and what outcome or biomarker or, criteria change in their clinical trials to make it better. How is this accepted by the regulatory? I mean, is there a friction, or the regulatory in Europe, at least, they are quite open about accepting this sort of technology in clinical
as far as I
trials?
know, of course, this is a word that is now evolving very quickly. And as I mentioned, there are the good clinical practice, for example, that regulates clinical trials. There are the good manufacturing practice that regulates the production of the drug, for example. And as far as I know, there is a new standard that someone is with the regulatory authorities is developing. That is, for example, good simulation practice. Okay. So there are some standards that regulates how to do a in silico trial, so something that is simulated and not that it did not really happen in the reality.
In the real world.
Something is evolving in this. I know that FDA is working also on these standards, good simulation practice, just to make something. There is paper released by FDA on in silico trials. So there
is a growing interest in the field, and definitely, I mean, the validation of the models and the computers that analysis that they do needs to be done, of course, at the highest level, because we're talking about exactly health of patients. And also, as you said before, the data, I mean, of patients are used here as well. So we need to make sure that, in case of data breaches or like, we need to keep all the information traceable and make sure that the rights and the welfare of the patient is maintained, even in this case. I mean, it's good to hear that there is an interest from the regulatory agencies into these fields, and also to support these kind of initiatives and these kind of companies to enter the market, or to support the novel drugs development, because we are aiming towards that. We have the same goal of reaching the market with more drugs, and this is definitely something that can help, and the technology can support us, and we saw that as a possible breakthrough in the clinical trials. Do you see this as the future of clinical trial, or like, do you still feel that the real patients will need to be at the center, let's say, of the investigation?
This can be a possible future, of course, but we can't, of course, take the patient aside. So, of course, patients, and this is what I really care when teaching clinical research. I mean, this is very important. The point is that the patient is really in the center of all our activities. Yes, as I said, the aim of the pharma company is to sell drugs. Okay, we are aligned on this, but before doing this, the safety and patient rights are our main focus. So before, also as a CRO, I mean, yes, and based on what the GCP, Good Clinical Practice, says, if there is some any type of incident, the first thing that the clinical researcher must think is the safety and the rights of patients respected? How I can grant that the patient is safe? So the first action is always based on the safety and patient rights.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, still, like, I mean, the patients and the final, I mean, are the final goal for us. So like, making the life better, making the life healthier, and we don't have to forget that, and that's a risk, maybe, not that with this technology we tend to dehumanize people, not to see them as just numbers and data, but we have to remember, we don't have to forget how they are at the center and the reason of why we do what we do. I mean, both of us in the field of clinical trials, but in the whole pharma sector, we all agree on that. And I mean, that was absolutely like a very inspiring message for everyone that wants to start or is now in a career on clinical trials. And what would you say to them? I mean, just for like wrapping up and concluding these amazing episodes, like, what would you suggest? What type of suggest you would give to anyone that wants to start a career as a CRA, apart from taking your course and do all the training necessary, but like also like how, I mean, what type of approach, what type of mindset they have to put into this job?
Of course, yes, not because I do training course, but it's normal that the first thing is to understand this word, because if you don't understand the word, you can never see the opportunity that this world can offer. So this is very important, the knowledge of the clinical trial processes. That this is what generally a company requires if they want to look for new employees. So the knowledge, of course, so this is clear to everybody, you know. The second one is the curiosity, and that the fact that this is a huge world, continuously evolving, and it is important that if you want to enter this world, you are curious about the processes or what is happening in the world about clinical research. And of course, this is quite, because I didn't tell you, the funny thing is that as I started this process of teaching and explaining clinical research in Italy, in different parts of the world, there are someone like me that started the same with the same or quite same approach, that started this information about the opportunities that clinical research can offer. And the first, we are quite aligned in the world with this, the importance of volunteering, and this is again, it's quite general for in the world. There are lots of people that I follow or I met in person, also working on this, you know, type of work that helps people to enter in this field. The approach is the volunteering. So starts, at least, of course, not for years, but of course, this is important to start working or see in person which are the main processes of clinical research. And generally, the hospital is the first starting point, because in the hospital you can see the whole clinical research world.
Mm-hmm. And importance, like, I mean, so then also the societal importance of clinical trials, no? Because as you said, no, people that want to start this career, they can go and volunteer and see how this goes, but at the same time help the people that are in the hospital and start to get an idea of the impact that we do have with this research on the, I mean, on the life of everyone. That's that's very inspiring.
As I always say, is of course every company wants a new, a just graduated person with 5 or 6 years of experience. This is really funny because, of course, everybody see this type of job vacancy. New graduates with the 4 years of experience. No, it's of course really funny. But what I'm saying, since a couple of years, I met that real person. I mean, and I have one of my trainees who she when doing my course, she was graduating in as a medical doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and plus she had 60 years of experience in clinical research, because of 7 years, because she started volunteering in a CRO when she was at the high school.
Ah, see. Yeah.
So she had some years of volunteering. Then she was employed by this CRO. She was not Italian. She was from Bulgaria. And then when she graduated in one of the Italian university, once she graduated after 1 week. She was, of course, employed by a CRO because she a very rare, so new
very rare case of a graduate with experience,
experience of 6 years, graduated in medicine with 6 years of experience in a CRO. So it was the so-called chimera of clinical research. So I found the chimera. But of course, this is not the right, the normal approach. But volunteering in clinical research for some months can really support.
Also, like, exactly, to get the mindset, to get around with the people that conduct this research, understand what the type of research is required. Yeah, that is very, very interesting, approach, very interesting take-home message for everyone that wants to, start some research, to do some research in clinical trials, and maybe they are now, in the verge of finishing their university and they want to get into this field. Okay, Stefano. Well, I thank you, first of all, for this very amazing conversation. It was very interesting, very insightful. And I will tell everyone that, about your courses. So then I will remind again, Mission CRA. You do have also a website in Italian where you do some, divulgation, some communication, and the importance of that. So do you mind saying the name, even if it is in Italian?
It is missionecra.com, mission CRA, mission with the E, CRA.com. And I want to also say that this is a future project, but I am in my let's say in my dream since years, because I did not mention that I'm in Italy, yes, but I am in the south of Italy, and ClinOpsHub, it's one of the very few CRO based in the south of Italy. And generally, until before COVID, at least before COVID, I did some summer school, so in the summer. So lots of people were coming from Italy, all Italy, and do a sort of study and holiday in Italy, in the south of Italy. What I want to do is in 2025, I hope it's to start a summer school, international summer school here in Puglia. Puglia is the heel of the boot, so the last part in the east of Italy.
It's beautiful for everyone listening. If you've never been, just go.
We can see wonderful, I would say, but not because I'm from here. The goal is for 2025 to start an international school of clinical research here in Puglia.
That would be amazing. Yeah, great. I mean, and it's good that we keep dreaming. That's good. We keep making our dream true, and novel ideas. That would be very, very nice. And let's see. I hope that we will see the international school of clinical research coming to life next summer. Then.
Yes. And just to conclude, is another something that I say to all my trainees. And so the call to action is for those who are listening this episode to keep in contact with me, to get in contact with me, LinkedIn, and possibly by explaining, so personalizing the request, saying that I heard the podcast, and this is very important. When you try to contact someone who is not in you did not know in person, it's important that you explain why you want to get in touch with him or her. So please always personalize the request on LinkedIn, and ask me the request to contact me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, okay, then. Yeah, good suggestion for everyone that might want to come in touch with you for talking with you. Okay, then. Thanks again, Stefano. That was very, very interesting, and thank you all for listening. And speak soon.
Thank you, Alessio, for the invitation, and I enjoyed this interview. Also because I did not say, but I manage also a podcast. It's in Italian, but it's called Carriera nel farmaceutico. That means career in the pharma. And now I'm working on a new series, so it will be published very soon.
Okay. Yeah, let's keep so career in the pharma, carriera nel farmaceutico. Okay, we for our Italian listeners, keep an eye on that as well.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you and bye.
Thank you. Bye.
That's a load of science.